What?
You're live, Corey.
All right. What's going on, guys? We're live here on Beyond the Game. I'm just checking Facebook to make sure we're up and running, so that way we'll be able to answer anyone's questions that they have during the show. Cliff, how's it looking on your end? You seeing us on Facebook?
It says you're live. You're live.
Is this Facebook? Yeah, I see you on Facebook.
You're live on Facebook.
All right, great. We're live on Facebook. All right. What's going on, guys? We're live here on Beyond the Game. I'm just checking Facebook to make sure we're up and running. Hang on one sec. All right. Good stuff. All right, so we're starting to get our viewers are coming in. Again, you guys can ask questions throughout the show through Facebook. Coach Winkle will be taking any questions and comments. Cliff, I'm hearing a little bit of an echo in the background at the studio.
Is that better?
Do you hear me on that?
We hear you.
There's background noise at the studio. I can hear people talking. Right, is John and Mike in the show? Can you guys hear us? John and Mike, are you?
We're working on it, Corey. It'll be fixed in a second.
Well, all right. So right now, guys, we have Coach Wink joining the show, and we have a special guest, John Odierna, associate head men's lacrosse coach at Manhattan College. He's coming on the show too, so he'll be popping a second here as we load him in. We got a good show for everyone here today. We're gonna be talking about some backyard lacrosse, what you can do at home to improve your game, being that seasons are being postponed and canceled and whatnot. And we're also going to be talking about Long Island high school lacrosse, because as of now, there's still a possibility that the season will resume come April. So we're hoping that that's the case. So we'll be talking about our preview that we recently launched on the LILJ app, talking about pretty much every single high school team, or at least all the teams that coaches submit their information. And then we're going to be talking recruiting. John Odierna is going to chime in a little bit on, from a college coach's perspective, what they're doing. And he's also going to talk about, just what's going on in college lacrosse with their season being canceled and how that's affecting not just his own personal program, but kids across the country. Thousands of kids playing college lacrosse. It affects, not just the seniors, it affects everyone. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to leave you guys with some recruiting advice on where you can get some really good insight while you're off from school and you're not really playing in your season, how you can kind of help yourselves through the process. So that's what we'll be talking about. How are we doing in getting Mike and John in the call?
What? You see me?
Looks like I'm back.
You guys.
Hi, John. Can you hear me? Oh, we're all here. Hi, guys.
How are we
What's
doing?
happening?
It's good to be here.
John, give yourself give us a little introduction on who you are and where you coach.
Oh man, John Odierna, associate head coach at Manhattan College. Grew up with Corey, hung out with Mike quite a bit throughout my life. So now I'm here to provide any insight and answers to some questions, and just hunkered down here in New York City in my apartment.
We got upwards of 10 people watching. So as the show progresses and we get more people, understand that you guys can ask questions. We're going to get you involved in the show. So this isn't just about us. It's about everyone. I'm sure a lot of people have been talking about and have been questioning what's going to happen here with lacrosse at the not just the youth, high school, college, and eventually the professional level. As this thing hopefully doesn't go too far into the summer, we'll see. But let's start with this. So one thing that we do in our program is we have like a video library of drills that kids can do with just themselves, with a brother or sister, with some friends, literally in their backyard. So we have on our YouTube page, which is FLG Lacrosse, where you guys can subscribe there. We've got a whole library of videos where people can watch them and get better. For you, Jo, what does Manhattan do to educate and communicate with your players about maybe drills that they can do on their own? Let's say like practice gets canceled, or let's say like, the coaches, because of rules and regulations, you can't work with your kids. How do you allow your kids to get better on their own?
Sure. I mean, this probably applies a little bit more to like breaks and stuff like that for us, only because we obviously get a lot of time with our guys. But we built drill inventories. So for me, I coach our defensive guys, and I've got 100+ drill inventory with video that I've taken of our guys in practice doing these drills. So our guys get to go home and have access to that. And if they're not sure what the drill is, they can pull up a link. And some of the drills are it's individual. It could be speed agility. It could be individual technique, on ball, off ball. And then I also have a section for kind of like group technique stuff. So if you have a buddy that plays somewhere else and you really want to work on a certain skill together, you can do it with 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, even upwards of 6, 7, 8 people if you want to. So I think the one thing that our guys definitely would say is they know what they could be working on. And obviously we also talk to our guys about certain things that they should be focused on. Different guys have different things they need to focus on, different strengths and weaknesses, so they can spend their time accordingly to give themselves a chance to be successful when we're back in a practice setting.
Yeah, I like the idea of like your own kids practicing with other kids from different colleges, because like especially now, a lot of kids are like home and there's no season going on. So like you give them an arsenal of drills. Like we used to do this together. Like when you were at Gettysburg and I was at Penn, we would come home, school breaks, and we would run like a bunch of drills that you put together that were like drills I've never done, which I really like. So I felt like I was like working on different things. So I think that's pretty cool. So like, let's say, not just like a Manhattan defenseman wants to get better. Like, do you have a library where like the general public can like look at it and say, hey, this is a great drill, I want to try this?
I don't have, the library is not open to the public at this time. Maybe at some point I'll release it, but I do have a page on YouTube where I have all the stuff stored, but right now it's exclusive to those people that have the links and stuff like that. But maybe at some point I'll release those out into the wild, so to speak, for other people to use.
All right, we just got our first question. So like Rich wants a little bit about how the red shirt thing is being handled with the season being canceled. So for an example, like you have a new class coming in, you got freshmen coming in, and you have old players, like let's say your current freshmen, sophomores, and juniors naturally coming back to the team unless they're transferring or whatever. How are coaches like trying to handle this, and is it case by case? What's going on with that? Because I think a lot of people are kind of curious on like how if let's say a senior does come back because they get granted another year and a freshman class comes in, how do these programs sustain that many kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's a bit of a gray area for everyone. The only thing that we know is that the NCAA has awarded the extra year for everybody that's a spring student right now. I don't think that they've specified how that impacts, I'll say at the Division I level, scholarship budgets and scholarship limits. Obviously, certain schools have roster caps, so they're only allowed to have a certain amount of people on a roster. There's been no indication of what that looks like. We don't have one, so that specifically doesn't affect us as much. But some schools I know have limits on how many students they can have on the roster all at once. And this is just the one thing I would say is it's extremely kind of unprecedented. There's no, book on national catastrophe leads to 5 classes on your team. So I think for everyone, it's very fluid, and I think we're all kind of playing the hurry up and wait game. I think we expressed to our seniors that we'd love to have as many of them back as we can figure out. But, I think the other thing I would say is, seniors in general have life plans and things that they are trying to figure out about the next steps in their life. And I don't think anybody prepared for, well, what if all of a sudden you're going to have that extra year of eligibility? It's basically unheard of. So, I wish I had a very specific answer, but I think what you're going to find is it's going to end up being institution to institution, how they want to handle, the scholarship budgets and roster situations. You could talk about the Ivy League, how they don't have grad students that participate on their teams. Do they waive that rule? I'm not sure. I don't know the answers to that stuff yet. I'll speak for us specifically. We're hoping to get as many of our seniors back as we can, but we aren't even sure how the logistics of that look just yet.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You mentioned earlier how your seniors, right, are the first class that you guys recruited to Manhattan College. So I got to imagine that's a special class. So like those are kids that you handpicked. You develop them for the course, almost four full years. That's kind of a unique situation. There's probably some other coaches that are maybe not in that spot where they're like, all right, hopefully they just kind of graduate and go on elsewhere and ready for some like more kids. But either way, it's definitely case by case. It's also from a high school perspective, it's weird because there's still hope that there's going to be a season. Like, I don't know if college should have done this or not. There, like you said, there's no like guidebook or roadmap to like a pandemic affecting, spring lacrosse season. But what we do know is right now there's still a little bit of hope if things do clear up. Like maybe there's a shortened season and kids get to play in their senior year. But even if they don't, kids obviously are gonna probably move on to bigger and better, and they still have college ahead of them. So it's kind of, in a way, it's unfortunate if kids' seasons get canceled at high school as a senior, but they also do have like a really positive thing to look forward to, which is playing college lacrosse and moving on to the next, phase of life. Yeah, like Regina just said, thank you for your dedication to the game and the players. That would be Regina Piscani. I appreciate your comments. I don't know if that's for Coach Odierna. I assume it is, because that guy, you want to talk about a guy that's dedicated to the game. It's that guy right there.
Appreciate that.
Do you know who Regina is, John?
I think her son came to one of our prospect camps based on the last name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, yeah, the views are pouring in. We're over 20 people watching live right now, which is really good considering it's the middle of the day. I know some people might be at home and some people might just for some content on what's up in the lacrosse world. And there's definitely a lot of uncertainty, but there's also a lot, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that's worth talking about. So one other thing to talk about besides ways you can get developed and get better on your own, which again, for people that just came into the show, I'm sure Coach Odierna of Manhattan's going to be posting some of the great stuff that he does for his players. We have certain things that we post and share for everyone on the FLG Lacrosse YouTube page, but we're going to be sharing dozens of videos over the next 3 weeks. It's part of our plan as we're at home here and we can't really get on the fields. So we're kind of excited to like release that. And I think it's also important for us to talk a little bit about, the season ahead, because again, the high school lacrosse season is not canceled yet here on Long Island. So we just launched a preview in early March about a little over a week ago, and we highlighted almost every single high school lacrosse program in Long Island, as long as a coach filled out their information on that team. And there's some really good content in there. And it's something that people can, check on the App Store. If you search Long Island Lacrosse Journal, you can check it out. But what we put in there is a lot of really good content that brings all the, not just the best lacrosse players, but, a guy that's a key returner that is maybe projected to have a big season, or maybe a notable alumni or a key loss, someone who graduated and is in college. So we kind of brought all that information in one spot, which is really good for recruiting purposes. So a college coach kind of, check that out. For you, Coach Odierna, have you been able to use that as a little bit of a read to check out and see what's up with Long Island lacrosse?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely love the content you guys are putting out. I'll be honest, I haven't done a deep dive into this year's version just yet, only because all this stuff that came down is pretty raw and just kind of happened for us. So our focus has been a little bit more on our own team, our own program, and the guys that are in it, and hopefully some of the guys that are coming back. I think at some point in the next couple of days, I'm going to start putting my recruiting hat on and start to look forward to some of hopefully great players in the best hotbed of lacrosse that I could potentially get to see this spring if there is a season that's salvaged. I think every coach in the country is hoping that we'll have a chance to watch some high school lacrosse at some point sooner than later.
I'm with you on that one for sure. And your boy Matt Griffo just joined the conversation.
Where's Matt living?
That's big.
Matt's in California now.
Ooh.
Big time production guy.
Oh, is that what he's
Yeah,
doing?
so
That's cool.
You might have to create an FRP commercial for you at some point.
Oh, absolutely. But
only if JC Ward gets to play Corey Winkoff in the commercial. That's the only request.
He's a hunkier version of me. So speaking of production, John, let's talk real quick why we're on a virtual BYG session today. So obviously, Coach Winks, we quarantined him in the office. We told him he's allowed to work there, but no one else can enter, and he can't leave besides going to his car. So that's where he is. I'm working from home. Coach Odierna's in New York, in his homeland. So what's pretty cool is our producer Cliff, who runs the Streamcast network, has been able to still execute flawlessly a BYG episode from the comfort of our homes, which is pretty advanced technology, and it's pretty cool. So that's why we're doing that from our homes, and we're able to do everything that we can do. And it's actually being streamed from his studio. So like this is all being run through his studio, which Coach Odierna has been there. It's in Northport. So it's pretty sweet that we can do this from here. But anyway, I just want to give everyone a heads up on that. And before we got more questions pouring in right now, before I get to them, we're going to take a quick break, a commercial break from our title sponsor, Epic Lacrosse, who, we had some big plans to do some stuff in high school lacrosse, on the fields and go to games. And, we hope to still be able to do that. But at the least, we're going to educate everyone on the online digital world on who Epic is. So let's take a quick commercial break here. All right, so that was Matt Rambo just ripping corners with his Epic Dragonfly stick. He's an Epic sponsored athlete. That's a pretty amazing product that they have. Their shafts there. What gear do you guys use over at Manhattan Jail?
Our team, so our guys are full out. All the soft goods, all the hard goods are Under Armour. Our guys love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's nice to have like one brand where you kind of get soup to nuts everything.
Yeah, they help us out a lot. They're pretty good about keeping us well stocked with everything we need. So nothing but good things to say about them.
What's interesting is we just got a comment. Hopefully, if the high school season goes on, college coaches will get an opportunity to maybe watch a little bit more of their recruits in a high school setting as opposed to a club setting. That's an interesting point that Rich makes because. I'm sure as a college coach, do you want to maybe talk real quick, Jo, about, why you guys maybe prefer to watch someone play for their high school team versus their club team versus at a prospect day?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think I will say 100% if there is high school lacrosse played this spring, you're probably going to have the best coach attendance you've ever had because I think all of us are asking ourselves, what do we do right now? Because we're usually entrenched in our own seasons. So, I do think that we're all itching to get out there and see some lacrosse. I definitely love watching high school seasons too. You get to see guys play different roles. I think comparatively, I think the club scene has done a good job of, there's so much practice now and guys have roles and they get everybody playing. But, you know, a lot of times in a prospect day or a showcase scenario, some people start to play a little bit of hero ball and the guys aren't really familiar with each other. So you don't see really that full picture all the time of certain players, and some guys will really assert themselves and some guys will take back seats. You know, so I do like seeing the high school stuff. And also, you know, it's unique to see all the different things that high school coaches are implementing in their programs. So guys have an opportunity to show off some lacrosse IQ when, you know, a certain team runs an exotic zone defense. You know, you can see a guy's real understanding of their defense and how it works and different parts of that. You know, I do think that gives you a better chance to see some guys, again, in a different role necessarily than your classic showcase event or prospect day or something like that.
I like that point a lot, because what happens sometimes, you know, even what we're going through right now in times of like a little bit of a crisis, or if there's a shortage, or if there's something that like unprecedented happened, a lot of times like innovation happens. So in high school lacrosse, you might have a team where they have like 15 guys in their roster. They have like 2 defensemen, like a goalie who gets hurt, and like 8 short sticks and like 3 fogos. And like to see what coaches do with like what they have, a lot of times, you know, it takes a lot of like innovation and creativity, and, you know, a lot of times really good like ideas and schemes and packages kind of come from the kind of like limitations that coaches are given. So I think it's cool that you as a college coach, you learn from some of the high school guys out there, because there's some like really impressive high school coaches that do a great job innovating and creating and like are super successful with like whatever it is they're given. And a lot of times too, they change what they have to do year to year just because they're not like recruiting a specific type of kid. It's just like, you know, they kind of use with what they got. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. You ever have like high school coaches come and visit you guys and, you know, watch practice and sit with the staff and, you know, look at some film and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've had a mixed bag of whether it's some high school coaches over the years or even college coaches at different levels, or Division I or Division III or Division II. It is always kind of cool to have, you know, some fresh eyes. You know, when you have coach, you know, we had Coach Barnard from Hamilton come down, not this preseason, the year before, you know, and just sit with us for the day and talk about different things. And, you know, you get so used to doing things your own way. Sometimes fresh eyes and guys poking you and asking you questions about certain things, you know, makes you sort of reevaluate how you even do your own things a little bit. You know, I think him and I were talking about defense even this winter, you know, and things that are second nature to me that I teach. He's kind of poking me. He's like, all right, well, why do you do that? Why does that work for you? You know, and it forces you to reevaluate and really, really rationalize why you're doing certain things, or evaluate and say, hey, maybe to someone else that doesn't make a ton of sense. Maybe I should reevaluate, look at it and teach it differently. So, you know, that's like the old saying, iron sharpens iron. So it's cool to spend time with other coaches, other experts. There are experts of lacrosse at all levels, you know, high school, club, Division III, II, I, MCLA. You know, there are coaches at every level that are unsung heroes at different things, and it's cool to hear different perspectives. So I love doing stuff like that.
Hey, quick question, John. How many times do you have to see a player before you make a decision that you want to offer? Johnny, when you offer a kid, how often do you have to see him play before you offer him?
It's an inexact science. Kind of depends, you know, what you see and when you see it. I would say typically at least, you know, 3 to 5 times. But again, I would say sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. You know, if you polled our roster, I think all 40 of them would have a different experience of how much we saw them, you know, and I think it's kind of inexact. It depends. You know, I think recruiting is a little bit like the job market. It's luck, talent, timing. So, you know, there are factors that play differently for everyone. I think the most important thing is, and I'll make this like an overarching thing, is, you know, you can't really compare one guy to another. Everybody's situation's a little bit different, and, you know, it might depend on certain needs in a certain year, or you see something that really jumps out, or, you know, you need to see more and then you see more. You know, it all kind of depends.
A question just came in too, John, and I want to get back to your point about ironing sharpen iron in a second. But Regina asked, do you think colleges, you know, like Manhattan College as an example, will have maybe additional prospect days this summer if they don't get a chance to see high school teams play during this spring season?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, especially if it's an interesting point because now my brain's churning on it. But you know, I think if something were to come down where they do decide to cancel a good chunk of high school seasons, if not the whole thing, which again, hopefully that doesn't become the case, I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see a bunch of college prospect days pop up, only because at the end of the day, as coaches, we are going to have to get back to the recruiting trail and have an opportunity to see guys. You know, and I do think that now, just knowing our coaching body and how motivated and driven they are, you could definitely see a lot more prospect camps pop up, especially now that we sort of have extra time that we typically wouldn't have, you know, with our seasons being done early. So I do think that one way or the other, coaches are going to closely monitor what's going on with the high school seasons, so that we can make decisions whether we're getting on the road or we're trying to get people to our campus so that we can still see what we need to see, you know, in the same recruiting window.
Now, you talked a little bit earlier, John, about ironing sharpen iron. That reminds me of Brandon Childs. That's something he's a big believer in. He recently wrote an article on Inside Lacrosse. What's maybe one takeaway that you got from that article that you might find useful for other people in the lacrosse community? Just, you know, his perspective, always interesting, and he's a pretty deep thinker. So I'm curious, like, what you think about his perspective on what's going on right now.
I saw that article on Inside Lacrosse, you know, really just about sort of what all of us as college coaches experienced last week when, you know, cancellations were coming, and having to approach your team and tell them that just like that, the season's over. It's beyond unprecedented. It's very rare that your season doesn't end on the field at some point. So, you know, I appreciate Coach Childs. I love his perspective on stuff. He's doing an awesome job running the program down at York. And I would advise anybody that coaches or is interested in coaching to check out that article. It's pretty cool. You know, he talks about his mentors of the sport, and you know, he had to do a self-reflection of how would they handle this situation? How would they address their team? You know, and what I really liked is he defined coaching. It's so much more than wins and losses. It can be measured in your relationships and the impact you have on lives. So, you know, national championships are awesome, and conference championships and wins and goals and all that stuff. But ultimately, you know, especially as college coaches, our job is to prepare our men for life. So unfortunately, this year was probably the worst day of my coaching career, having to go in there and face our guys and tell them that they aren't going to have an opportunity to finish what they started. And it was very emotional. But what I will say is it's a major life lesson, and sometimes things don't make sense and they're unfair and they're out of your control. But, you know, you got to be able to roll with it, so to speak, after you have the emotions, and you can move on and hopefully do something productive with a lesson learned. So I did think it was kind of a cool article from that perspective, just talking about the challenges, because I think every coach, you know, we were all reaching out to each other, one, not knowing what was going to be our fate, and then ultimately trying to find some guidance. You know, how do you handle this situation? Because literally no one had before. You know, so I did think it was cool to see his perspective, because it kind of felt like I was looking in the mirror when I was reading that article. You know, it was really hard to face our guys, especially our seniors, and tell them just like that, you know, you're not going to have the opportunity to finish this season, and it's going to have to be a lesson learned and something hopefully we're better for in the long run.
This is a reference to in the future when kids maybe aren't as appreciative of what they get to do day to day. Because, you know, we talked, you know, he said in the article, like, you know, being a college coach, I got the best job in the world. I think, you know, the only other, I think, people that might have just as good a job are the kids who get to be student athletes at a really awesome college or university and get to play college lacrosse, because that's a pretty unique and awesome lifestyle that a really small percentage of kids get a chance to work towards and do. And if kids aren't really appreciating that opportunity, you can just mention how in life that could be taken away at any moment. And it could be, the extreme of what's happening now. Unfortunately, the Long Island lacrosse community just lost a girl from Sayville who was a freshman down at Mount Olive. She passed away in a car accident. And a lot of times, really, sometimes extreme and sad and unfortunate things can happen, and it makes you kind of reflect and appreciate just what you have in front of you each and every day. So I'm sure that's something you'll use. And I think, from a club lacrosse perspective, one thing, once this all happened and things started canceling and getting postponed, the first thing that I wanted to do, along with my dad, who I work with alongside here, is just turn to the families in our program and communicate even more with them. So what we did as an example was set up, through a little app, an opportunity, 20, 30-minute phone calls for anyone in our program that's kind of, going through the recruiting process in the 2 oldest grades to just talk to us. And I want to hear what our kids are thinking, what they're going through. I want to give them a little bit of a roadmap so they know what to do next. And I think the more you can communicate and kind of keep the community engaged, I think the easier it is to get through stuff like this. And I think that's one idea that we're doing, and something that other people can adopt, because I think it's going to really help those kids, take what is kind of very uncertain times and a lot of confusion going on, and just be like, okay, once things do settle down, I have an idea of how I can approach and how to take next steps. So looks like another question in. Not sure if this is something you can answer, but it is something that is a topic of discussion about how the NCAA could potentially step in and give more scholarships to programs, or does the team take less kids going forward on scholarship? What do you think, Jo, about that as it relates to scholarship money for the schools that can offer that?
Yeah, it's a tricky question. I don't have. I think we're all wondering the same thing. I got to imagine that the NCAA will probably exempt the scholarships for any seniors that choose to return. And obviously give some flexibility on the overall budget. Obviously, every school has different scholarship budgets. Some are fully funded, some are not. Some are working with 1 or 2 scholarships. So, I would imagine the NCAA gives some flexibility on that 12.6 scholarship number and allows some schools to go over. But beyond that, it would be all speculation on, does each school, are they willing to go over the number and provide more scholarship money? I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. But I do imagine that the NCAA is going to try to be as flexible as possible here, just given how unique the situation is, especially for next year. I think after next year, they'll probably say, the flexibility is gone, go back to the way it's always been, just because after that, your roster should be back to a normal, everyone that you expected to be there will be there. Everyone that was not supposed to still be there will then actually have graduated if they do choose to use that 5th year next year. So, again, it's really gray. I think it's going to depend a lot on each school and the NCAA and what kind of guidelines they provide. But I would imagine there will be some flexibility on the overall cap of scholarships, and then how each school approaches that could be very different. We're not sure right now.
So we have about 5 minutes left. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to talk recruiting in our last 5 minutes, and then we have some more questions to answer. So, before we turn to our last commercial, with one of our huge sponsors here with the with our show Beyond the Game and the Long Island Lacrosse and Epic Lacrosse, we wanted to give a shout out to Crease Beast goaltending training run by Chris Gill, who was an Albany graduate, played for the Great Danes. He's one of the best goalie trainers on the island. He does a great job and just has that personal touch, working with goalies, getting to know everyone's names, following players, not just through their high school career. So he's worked with some players since they've been in elementary school, but he also follows you, through college, and has helped players through that process too, which is cool. And he's just a guy that cares a little bit more than just, about making your son or daughter a better goalie. He cares about them as a person and where they want to go in life. So shout out to Crease Beast Goalie Training, and he's one of the best out there. So let's get a quick commercial break. We'll come back. Last couple minutes, we'll talk recruiting, and we'll call it a day.
beginning of meditation.
All right, so we're back here. A couple minutes of our first remote. This is our first remote BYG episode. It's being run through the studio, and it's a pretty cool thing that we're able to do. Before we get to our closing statements, a comment from Joe, who's watching the show, about when he thinks high school lacrosse will start up again. Personally, I don't know if we're going to have a season in the spring. I think there's hope right now, and there's a possibility for it. But if you were to ask me, and if I were to bet on it, I would think that the fall is the next time you're going to see varsity sports go on. And I'm not sure if the seniors are going to get a chance to play out, what they put so much time into. So I think for them, it's turning to what's next, which is college lacrosse. If we can get access to facilities and we can roll something out for high school student athletes come late May and June, the Long Island Lacrosse Journal has talked, and we have some really good ideas on what we want to do. Something we're not going to talk about just yet. Well, that's for another time. But I hope that, like Coach Child said, the last time that some of these seniors in high school have together is not, them getting a tweet from Section 11 saying like, hey, we're postponing the season. It's them getting a chance to play with their boys together on the field, which we totally understand why they would want that, and we're trying to create that type of experience for them if we have the ability to. But either way, we closing out our conference with recruiting. Just so you know, we have two really good opportunities to learn from myself and from some other experts in the field of not just lacrosse recruiting, but test prep and college prep. So Andy Lockwood and I are running a webinar this Thursday. So in 2 days at 7 p.m., you can dial in, you can ask questions. You do have to sign up. It's a free registration. And we are going to be running an hour-long webinar to talk about how to get scholarship money, where there is money in college prep, what you need to do to prepare for college, talking about how lacrosse recruits are different than actual students who maybe just don't play on sports teams. So we have some really good insight that we're going to be going through on Thursday night. And I also just did an exclusive webinar with Matt Wheeler, who is the co-founder at Sports Recruits. We're going to talk about how you can utilize basically the internet right now to get yourself recruited during this time when you essentially aren't really playing. And a big focus of that webinar that I just did with Matt Wheeler that we're going to be rolling out over the next week is your highlight video, because right now a lot of kids don't even have video, and they have no excuse to be like, oh, I don't have time to put it together. I don't have time to do it. So for you, Coach Odierna, I know you haven't really thought recruiting just yet because you're worried about your own team and your program and where things are going. Do you think that watching video and recruiting online is something that you see your staff doing in the coming weeks?
Yeah, 100%. I do see us getting back into kind of a recruiting mode here in the next few days and really doing a deep dive into highlight videos are definitely the best way right now. Even I would be honest, with the amount of time we have, if there's full games, I'd probably watch those too. But, I do think video is going to be the best lifeline for recruiting, at least for the next few weeks. I don't know if we mentioned it. The NCAA has mandated an emergency dead period for recruiting until April 15th. So for us, there's not really going to be anything in person until then anyway. So video is definitely going to be sort of the best avenue, I guess, for recruiting. Everything's being done remotely right now. So that would be the best way to do it.
Hey, Core, I'd like to bring up something that we're doing with the Long Island Lacrosse Journal that's going to help the Long Island lacrosse player, and that's with Sports Recruits on everybody's profile page. If they have a Sports Recruits profile, it'll be linked to their name. So if you go, as we get the rosters, hopefully we'll have a season, but you'll be able to see the young man or young woman. I was uploading a bunch of them today, and I noticed that some of the kids have video on their Sports Recruits profiles. Some of them don't. As we guide our student athletes in the FLG program, we strongly suggest that you add your highlight video. And now that you have plenty of time at home, you should be, if you can, go onto Huddle or go onto Sports Recruits and you can make your own highlight, because college coaches are going to be dying for something to watch besides obviously what's on TV.
Corey, can I make one more point? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the other point I would tack on is, and this is the message that we've given to all of our guys too, just because lacrosse is on hold, you still got to take care of the academic side of things. And I do think if you're a junior or a sophomore, obviously you've been thrown into kind of a weird situation here where, I'm not as up to date on what high schools are doing, but, if you're doing the remote learning stuff, do not treat it like vacation. Make sure you're staying on top of it. Because in a year and a half or in a year, college admissions departments, I don't know if they're going to be very lenient when you say, well, I had all online classes, so I didn't take them seriously, and that's why my transcript is no good right in that section. So we've advised our own guys too, this isn't a vacation from school. If anything, it's a great time to get in front of school and be ahead on it because of all the extra time you have. So, I'm sure that's exactly what every kid wants to hear. Just like I'm sure our guys were excited to hear that, I guess. But I do think that's really important to note. You have extra time, and there's no reason why this shouldn't be maybe your best quarter or best semester rather than one where you're kind of just holding on or you're taking a break because there's no lacrosse either.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also all the academic, admissions offices are going to be comparing you to every other kid who is basically doing schooling online. So, the kid with the excuse is being compared to the kid who decided not to make an excuse and, put their head down and actually go online and take their classes and do their homework. So definitely, I agree. Limit the excuses and do your thing, because it's gonna hurt you in the long run, or could help you. So, Coach Odierna, we wanted to we wanted to thank you first off for coming on. Appreciate it. One thing that I think lacrosse fans do is learn a little bit about Manhattan College and this year's team in the short time you guys were playing. On Lax.com, they recently released a little video on you guys. Want to talk about what was inside that video?
Yeah, sure. It was a couple weeks ago. They spent a day with our guys the day before we played Bryant. Spent a day with them on campus. Got to poke around our new facility. I think there was a pizza review they did in the student center, which was kind of funny. Spent a little time with us at practice, and then some cool shots from kind of the lead up to the game. So, it was a 7-minute video. The guys from Lax.com did an awesome job. And cool video to check out if you have 7 minutes of time. I've had a little bit of extra time, so I've watched it again. But they did a good job. You get to learn about a little bit more about our guys and the personalities that we have in our program too.
Great stuff. Well, we look forward to having you back on BYG soon. Hopefully, when things are a little bit brighter down the road.
Yeah.